Today we are discussing perhaps the most important topic of all if you work with children, and that is play. Specifically, I am going to cover 5 levels of play. Now, these levels are sequential, but they can always overlap, and some children can even develop later skills before earlier skills. So it's important that you have a strong idea of what your activities are going to look like at all 5 levels. What I challenge you to do is to be able to take an activity, a single activity, and to adapt it on that 5 level scale. This is where I'm heading with my SIS membership for the next school year. I'm going to take my SIS activities and I'm going to show my members this is how you can adapt this activity on the 5 levels that I'm going to discuss with you today. Before I dive in, I want to share a personal story and why this is of paramount importance and why this has been on my mind all week. This has to do with myself and my own experience in engaging in a play activity that was out of my league and how I responded. So I'm just going to tell you, last Sunday, I was invited to a Yemenis women-only wedding. I've never been to one before. This is my first time. And I didn't know anyone there. So I had the invitation to go alone. And I didn't know anyone, and they were all so very nice. Half of them spoke English and they talked to me, and I had a really great overall time. I must admit, I was very, very uncomfortable because I didn't know anyone there, and I didn't want to like be the person that kind of ruins everything by breaking social norms. I didn't know what the social norms was. I was really nervous about being someone that was like, "Ah, stop the music. What is she doing?" And I was also the only person there that was not Muslim. I was very much out of my league. But nonetheless, my whole goal was just don't stand out, just kind of blend in if you can. So I went to this Yemenis wedding. It was a wonderful experience. The people were really wonderful. I feel very blessed for this great opportunity. The reason I was there is because my son is a friend of another child, and his sister was having the wedding. So I didn't know his sister and I didn't know the mother, but I know my son's friend. So anyhow, I go to the wedding and I go through all the motions. I just try to like fit in as much as possible. And there's hundreds of women at this women only wedding occasion. And then the dancing starts. Now, at the dancing, they had hundreds of women. This was a huge wedding, and they form a circle around the bride. And the bride is doing Arabic dancing, and then one by one, her friends and family come in and join the bride, and they dance with the bride. And then the next person comes out. Now, there are hundreds of people there. So not everyone gets to dance with the bride, obviously. Well, my son's friend's mother, she pulled my arm and she brought me into the circle to dance with the bride, who I don't know. I don't know Arabic dancing. I don't speak any Arabic. I was so uncomfortable. And the whole time I just felt like I don't want to ruin your wedding. I'm so sorry that I'm in this circle and I'm doing Arabic dancing with you, and I don't know how to do Arabic dancing. And I have hundreds of women around me clapping. And I know you're just like, who is she? Because you don't know me. Why are you ruining my wedding? Get out of here. I didn't want to be the wedding crasher. So I left the circle. I will get in, just get out as soon as you can, and try to like just blend in, even though you're dancing with the bride who you don't know, doing Arabic dancing, which you don't know. And the whole goal is just don't ruin the reception, right? So I come out. Now, you may have noticed I did not do a podcast this Wednesday. Usually Wednesday is my podcast day. And that is because I needed time to recover. The wedding was on Sunday and I had everything going on, but it was sensory overload for me. I was like, wow, I just felt afterwards, this takes a few days. I need some time alone. I'm also an introvert, so the experience was a lot to process. I need some recovery time. And so Wednesday, I was just tired. I was just like, I just need some time to think and I need some time to sleep. I don't want to put myself out right now. I need some time to go into the closet and kind of recover a little bit. So I was not feeling like this is the time to do a podcast. It took a few days, and here I am a few days later. I'm ready to do the podcast. I'm ready to reflect on this experience. But what this experience taught me as a speech therapist is, why was I so uncomfortable? These were well-intentioned, friendly, wonderful people. It was wonderful food. It was a wonderful wedding. It was fabulous. If I look at myself in the demands capacity model, and this is how we have to look at our children, is we all walk around with these scales. It's kind of like the scales of justice. You have on either side a weighing scale. And inside my side of the scale, I had that language-wise, I don't speak Arabic. There was more stress in the demands because everyone was speaking Arabic at the wedding. My language was not there, right? So the scale was tipped, right? And then there was the play component. They were all Arabic dancing, right? And I was pulled into the middle. I didn't know how to play the game. I didn't know how to play with the other ladies at the party. So it was just kind of like that play motor skill component. I didn't know how to do the dance. The demands were higher. So we had the language demands, the motor demands, it's getting higher and higher. Then we have these social emotional demands. I didn't know anyone there. So it was just like the social emotional demands, not knowing anyone. Oh, it was higher. And the scale was tipping because I didn't have the capacity in terms of language. I didn't have the capacity in terms of cognition. I didn't know what is it that we're supposed to be doing in the ceremony. I didn't know in terms of motor skills. I didn't know what to do with my body. I didn't know how to Arabic dance with the bride. And then in terms of social emotional, I didn't know anyone there. So I was out of my comfort zone. I didn't feel safe and secure. So my scale was kind of tipped in that the demands across all categories, they were higher than what I was capable of, my capacity. I stayed as long as I could to the wedding and participate in all the activities. And then I left and I was just like, wow, that was a lot. I was so grateful. I had feelings of gratitude. And I'm someone who's very open to new experiences too. But I also felt like I need to recover from this. Like my scale was really, really tipped. I don't feel safe, secure, grounded. I need to add some weight to my scale so that I'm able to handle the demands that are going to come at me in life, the stress of life. I need time to recover from this experience. So it was just that idea that I think many of our kiddos go through where we, for instance, in an evaluation, they come in to meet with us. And then what do? We separate them from their parents. So they're there with the strangers who have that social demand. Then we put language demands on them, where they don't understand the language. Then we put these motor demands on them in testing when they don't have the motor skills. And then oftentimes we pick activities that they're not able to do. For instance, the occupational therapist is like, look at me, I'm going to make a train. Now you make a train. So I think so many times it's like the children were like me at that Yemenis wedding where it's like, you're 0 for 4 here, right? You don't have the social connection with any of us. You don't have the language to comprehend what's going on. You don't have the motor skills to participate. You don't have the cognitive skills, the play skills to know how is this routine work in which you dance with the bride and you come out of the group. There's this whole complex routine of what you're supposed to be doing. All of those things, it's very, very stressful, right? We just have to honor that if we're going to challenge the children in one area, and as I've told you, I challenge the children in their speech and language targets, we also have to consider, because challenge does create change, these other areas, are we challenging them in those areas too, to a point where it's above challenge point, where the demands, the scale is tipped because the demands overwhelm the capacity. It's challenge, 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 more challenge, and the child simply can't do it. How does that usually manifest? In a fight, flight, freeze response. The child can throw things, the child can escape and run away, the child can buckle down and not participate and turn you off. Whatever the child does to remove these demands. For my case, I left the wedding and stayed as long as I possibly could, being uncomfortable. My whole goal was just blend in, camouflage in to this Yemenis wedding as much as you can. But that, I think, is a similar situation to what our children experience. And The neat thing about it is that we have this goalpost that we can always adjust on a moment-to-moment basis. So last week, many of my kiddos, they are no longer in preschool. They're simply just coming to speech therapy and then summer school programs. Their routines have been totally flipped upside down. There's all of these graduations and all of these other things going on. The kids seem more dysregulated than usual because they don't have those predictable routines that they typically have. You're probably seeing that in your neck of the woods at the end of the school year as well. So what I did with my SIS membership activities is I went for more sensory focused activities. Both this week and last week's activities were more sensory focused. I didn't have them traveling across the room. I stayed at the table. I structured things up a little bit. I wanted to lessen the motor demands in consideration that they had less on their end of the scale because of the lack of predictability and stability in their home and their scholastic environment because of this chaotic time of year. Now, always thinking about that scale is important, but what I wanted the reason I wanted to talk about this is it's really told me, Kelly, you need to evolve the SIS activities and your SIS membership. And each week you need to show your members how can you take it up and down these 5 stages of play. I'm going to talk about these 5 stages of play today with you, and I want you to just consider how you could take any activity yourself. What I'm going to talk about now is my plan and how I'm going to take my SIS membership activities for the next school year and clearly delineate this is how you're going to take it up and down these 5 levels of play. In the past, I didn't clearly delineate. I gave an educationally rich activity. The children all enjoy it. And I gave the speech language pathologists and the teachers, I gave leeway to say, okay, work with this and work with the child and adjust it as needed. I really want to more clearly paint a picture of what is it going to look like when you move up and down these 5 stages. For myself, pragmatically, I take these 5 stages and they're largely based off of Piaget. And I say, this is how I see children develop play. First, we have the sensory play. Then after that, we have cause-effect play. This is simply where they're like, okay, if I do something, for instance, in sensory play, if I lift up the cup and I turn it over, I'm going to watch the beans come out. It's become a cause effect. It's not just exploring the beans. Now you're learning to do, if I do X, Y is going to happen. After that, we have task-oriented constructive play. And that's something like you're taking a puzzle piece and you're putting it in a puzzle. You're playing with the objects effectively, and there's a goal. The goal is to get all of the puzzle pieces inside of the puzzle. So it's task-oriented in that sense of the word. Then we're going up a step where we have task-oriented movement activities, the multiple step activities. And what that is about is when you take an activity and you engage in multiple steps to get that done. For instance, in my task-oriented activities, if we were to do an activity in which there was zoo animals and we needed to get them in the zoo, that escaped from the zoo, what you would have to do, or you might call it a wildlife sanctuary if you're not up for zoos, you might take the animal, then you might cross some river rocks, cross the bridge, and then you might take the animal, put them in the zoo, come back, and then you're going to check a checklist that you saved this animal and you brought them back to the wildlife sanctuary. And then fifth, we can look at symbolic play, and that's where we're pretending. So we're pretending that the river rocks they're coming across, that's the bridge you need to cross to get the animals back in the zoo. Look out for the crocodiles, they're going to get you, or look out for the sharks, don't fall off the bridge or the sharks are going to eat you. You're adding this imagination component, and you would be surprised. My children with autism really pick that up. If I take a moment and someone comes in and they need me to sign something, they'll stop on the river rocks and be like, the crocodiles are going to get me. They're picking up the imagination in that. So don't skimp and think, oh, they're not at the imaginary plays level. They're very cause effect. They're not going to understand. You would be surprised. They're taking so much more. And then you can tell because they don't have, many of them don't have a conventional speech developed yet or conventional gestures and motor skills developed yet. It's hard to understand what they understand. But what I've found is they understand a lot more than you think they might. You might think they're not picking up on the sharks and the crocodiles that are coming to get them if they fall off the river rocks, but one day don't have the sharks and crocodiles there, and they're going to let you know, the sharks and crocodiles are going to get me. It's going to come out of their mouth. These are the 5 stages of play. And when I look at that, what I want to do for this next school year is just make it really clear. Okay, here's our task-oriented movement activity that treats the whole child, the most educationally rich activity out there. And I want to show people specifically, if you're going to make it sensory motor, this is what you're going to do. If you have a child at the sensory motor stage, this is what it looks like. Then I'm going to say step 2. If the child's at the cause effect stage, this is what it's going to look like. If the child's at the task-oriented play stage, this is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to look like in multiple steps, and this is what it's going to look like with symbolic pretend play stage. I want to show the scale that you can go up and down in play from less complex to more complex. And it's not only because you have a diverse caseload, you have 50 children on your caseload, if not more, who child A is doing sensory. Child B is doing symbolic pretend play. Then you get to your next child, child C. Child C is doing cause effect play. Child D. So every child is at their own unique level, and you're able to take that educationally rich activity, it's already in there, and you're able to move up and down and challenge the child when the child needs to be challenged, and remove some of the challenges when the child needs more support, and support the child so that within that activity, you can really fluidly move up that scale of sensory to symbolic play and everything in between, depending on whether or not the child is sick that day, whether the child's had in a teacher's room, they tell you an off day, whether the child didn't get a lot of sleep last night. You're able to really move it. Or sometimes children are all in on an activity and you can take it up many, many, many levels. It's really fluid, and to be able to work with that level of fluidity will really make you a master therapist. That is where I'm heading, and I think that it was just that happens with me a lot as a speech therapist. And I think that happens to you a lot is that you never take that speech therapist hat off. You experience challenges, and you see how it relates to the children you work with that have communication impairments that affect so much more than a child's ability to effectively communicate. And when you have a communication impairment, practically every area of your life is impacted. And an example of that was me being at the Yemenis wedding where most of people there only spoke Arabic, and I didn't know what was going on half the time when I was there. And my whole goal is just don't just blend in as much as possible. It really helped me understand how, wow, it's really hard to understand what you're supposed to be doing. It's really hard to understand how you're supposed to be moving your body. It's really hard to understand how you should socially relate to those around you when there's a communication impairment. It really does impact everything. And all of those stressors add to that scale, and it takes away from your capacity in flipping that scale. That's why I stand behind using task-oriented movement activities when you work with children. It's not only children with autism that benefit, it's all children with communication impairments, because the communication impairment is multifaceted. It affects executive function, it affects attention, it's connected to motor skills, it's connected to visual perceptual skills. All of these areas are indirectly impacted. It's social emotional skills. So you want to have a multifaceted approach to intervention. You don't want to be treating a mouth. If you're treating a mouth, you're going nowhere fast. You really want to treat the whole child and take a holistic approach. When you're looking at any activity you're doing, if you're not a SIS member, that's okay. You're doing whatever you're doing. You're like, this is what I'm going to be doing this week with the kiddos. This is my fun activity. Think about, okay, what is this activity going to look like at a sensory motor stage? What is this activity going to look like at a cause effect stage? What is this activity going to look at the task oriented constructive play stage? What is this activity going to look at like at a multiple step task phase that involves movement? And what is this going to look like when you have this symbolic play, the pretend play area that stimulates the frontal lobe, especially in the imagination? How is it going to look like with that? And I don't want you, when you think about these 5 levels, to think child A is at this level, child B is at this level, child C is at this level, child D is at this level, child E is at this level. No, no, no. A child can be at all 5 levels. On a given moment, the child will take up one level more than the next. So me, for instance, I was 0 for 5, right? I was like when I was finished with that with the Yemeni's wedding, which I speak about it and I'm so grateful for it. It was a wonderful experience. I would do it again and again, knowing that I'm going to be thrown in the middle with the bride, and that's going to be very hard for me to deal with. And it's going to take time to recover from that. I would still do that again. But what I'm going to say is that realizing when you're taking this, that you can have someone that is a 5 in this situation, but if you change one of the variables, that person can go to a sensory level. And my sensory level after that was, I need some time alone. I need some quiet time. I really need some time to like shut down. I need some time to process what I experienced and why what I experienced did not feel good. A safety, secure, predictable routine level. It didn't feel good at the amygdala level. I kind of felt like I was in fight, flight, freeze brain because the environmental demands were too high for my capacity. How many times this happens in our speech therapy sessions when a speech therapist has, well, this is the activity we're going to do today with all of the kiddos that I work with. I'm going to pull out the WH bingo game. Now, don't be surprised when the WH bingo game gets tipped over and the pieces get thrown all over the place and the child swipes it. The child is telling you that this is above my capacity. I don't know, and perhaps it's like it's too hard in terms of language. It's too hard in terms of the fine motor. It's too hard in terms of the executive control. Too hard in terms of the cognitive fashion of it. So there's so many aspects of that activity. And you could be doing everything right. Like for me at the Yemeni's wedding, the people were wonderful. I couldn't ask for kinder, more wonderful hosts and people that had good intentions, that had smiles on their face and so much enthusiasm. It was the most fun event ever. But at the same time, if the demands exceed the capacity, it's not going to feel good. You're overstressing the child system. Okay, so it's just something to consider when we talk about play. I want you to keep these 5 stages in mind. Don't think about them discretely. Think about how they can overlap one another, but think about just like we do with our cueing, how it's dynamic in nature, how it's moment to moment in nature, how 1 minute we're providing a maximum level of support, and the next minute we're providing no support at all. It's the same way with the activities. Sometimes within an activity, you are going to be providing a maximum level of support and that you're going very sensory. You're taking it down, 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 down. And then sometimes when that child's all in, you can go in and throw in all of this pretend play, all of this symbolic play into it. It's the right thing to do. It's the right time for it. The child's in a great space for that. It's that same level of dynamic back and forth dance that you're doing with the child on a moment to moment basis. It's not something that in this therapy session, I'm going to do this type of activity and we're going to operate at this level. You're going to probably operate at all 5 levels within a single activity, and it's going to be based on that back and forth interaction. What does the child give you at that moment in time? And how you respond should be different each time based on how the child throws the ball to you, is how you're going to catch it. You're going to catch it differently depending on the throw. So if the child's throwing it way over your head, you gotta like take a couple steps back to catch it, right? If the child throws it too low, you have to take a couple steps forward to catch it. If it's to the side, take a step left, take a step right. So you do have to be on your toes. This is not an easy job, but it really does make a difference as long as you can keep that ball play going back and back and forth. And that's what play is all about for a master therapist. I want you to take all of this information. Thank you so much for joining me. Better later than never. I'm sorry I didn't get to see you on Wednesday this week. I was actually recuperating from having my demands, the demands exceed my capacity. And I really honestly needed time to recover from that and to strengthen myself again so I can show up for you 100%. So I want you to take all of this information, roll up your sleeves, and do what you do best, which is make the world a better place, one child at a time. You're always going to be first.